Hello, welcome to another episode of Coach's Clinic, sponsored by Golden Home Fitness. I am Coach JJ. I'll be taking you through today's subject matter. And for the month of March, I'm going to cover corrective exercises, right? And today specifically, I'm going to cover the foot and ankle complex and kind of go into why it's important to put some emphasis on the feet because let's face it, that is the foundation for our body. But what we will cover today is addressing the common deviations of the foot and ankle complex. Also, explain the possible causes for why there are those deviations and bad alignments or malalignments. And also, we're going to demonstrate the exercises and movements that you can do to help correct those the bad alignments and deviations and what have you. The tools we're going to need for today is, of course, going to be floor space. Right? It's going to need floor space. But you can use a mat or a comfortable floor. And if you don't have a mat, make sure you have that available. Also, if you have any type of massage tools, I have massage tools here, like a sports ball, a foam roller. You can use, let's see, I have a cane here, a therapeutic cane that you can use. You may have one of these at home. Make sure that stays there. A massage gun, massage stick. I mean, there's all sorts of tools that you can use for corrective exercise programming. But also, we're going to need a little bit of a vertical surface, so like a wall to the floor, which I have here. And anytime you get a massage, you're going to need water. It's always good to hydrate those tissues that you just worked on. And just like if you get a massage from a massage therapist, one of the things they do afterwards is give you a bottle of water, right? So make sure you do have some water handy. And if you do not have any type of massage-based equipment, whether it be like the foam roller, the lacrosse ball, etc., you can find those on our website. You can go to goldenhomefitness.com. Just venture over to our shop page, and you'll be able to find a variety of equipment that you can use for your corrective exercise purposes. So. But we will continue on, and we're just going to get into some of the details about the foot and ankle complex and why we need to address this. So, the two most common deviations in the foot and ankle complex is going to be overpronation, right? So, collapsing too much on the inner part of the foot, as well as a lack of dorsiflexion, which is basically bringing the knee over the toes or bringing your toes up towards your shin. So just real quick, I'll show you both of these, and just so you have a better illustration here. So you can see right here in the middle with this blue line, notice how it's nice and straight up and down, right? So from the calves to the Achilles down to the heel, you want that straight alignment, right? That's going to be more neutral. But when you move over here, let's see, actually this one right here, you see where the red lines are? That's the inside of the foot and leg. But notice the blue line, how it's broken, right? It's because this person's collapsing too much on the inside part of the foot, okay? And that will cause big time issues if you don't get that addressed. And as far as dorsiflexion, right? So we noticed here the angle of the ankle, right? So you want the knee to be able to move past the toes, over the toes, right, to get this angle. But if you can't get your ankle in this angle, it's going to be difficult to do a lot of movements like walking or even squatting. So certainly addressing that is going to be huge for a lot of the activities that you do. And we need to understand that the feet form the foundation for our body. Right? That's what's in contact with the ground, right? And with the ground reaction forces, we apologize. But with the ground reaction forces, right? Whatever we put into the ground is going to come right back up into us. So you can imagine if the alignment is off of the foot and ankles, then that's going to be a lot of force put into the body that our body's not ready to receive, right? Or not in a good position to receive. So that's going to cause some pain, and discomforts down the road if you're not already experiencing that. So Excuse me. And just like with a home, if you want to build a second level on top of your home, but the foundation is cracked and maybe part of it's already sinking, you're not going to want to put a second level onto that house because that foundation is essentially junk, right? It's not in good condition. But when it's solid and it's exactly the way it should be, then you can add that second level because it can support the weight. Our feet and ankles, same thing, right? If it's not in the alignment or they're not in the alignment they need to be, then it's not going to support the weight properly or the force that we're applying when we do certain movements. So those, we all know someone, or maybe it applies to you as well, but we all know someone who has what's called flat feet, right? Or even are duck-footed or pigeon-toed, whatever you want to call it. And those folks are oftentimes the ones who overpronate, so they collapse inward too much on the inside part of the foot. That arch tends to stretch out, flatten out. And those tissues just get so stressed that eventually you may even feel pain because of it. And same thing with the duck feet. Some people, natural position is just to have those toes turned outwards, right? And that's going to cause an issue because when you walk, ideally, you want the knee to travel over the toes, right? Kind of like what I showed you in that picture, right? You want the knee to travel over the second toe, third toe, if you're walking straight forward. Of course, that's not always going to be the case. With certain activities, like in sports, you need to move in multiple directions. So the knee's not always going to move over the toes. When you're walking forward or you're doing squats, right, you want those knees to move over the toes. And when your feet are always turned outwards, that's not necessarily going to happen. Instead, the knee is going to move more inside of the toes, right? It's a big problem. And over the long term, the result will be like joint pain. Tissues will get too stressed, so you might feel that soft tissue pain as well. So definitely address this as soon as you can, right? The younger you are, the better it is to address it sooner than later because you don't want that to become an issue down the road. And you can always tackle or mitigate these issues with massage, either massage therapy or self-massage. You can stretch as well as strengthen once the massaging and stretching help get things into better alignment. Now, of course, if you're experiencing any type of pain, speak with your doctor, all right, and/or a physical therapist, because you want to address something that hopefully is not worse than what it is, right? So you don't want there to be a big issue, whether it be congenital or maybe it's from an injury itself, right? If it's an injury, then it's certainly considered a position, but otherwise, the lot of pain you just can't explain. It's not from physical trauma. Then it's a good chance it's because of the alignment that's going on with the foot ankle complex. So now another big aspect with muscles and connective tissues and tendons, in general, we need to understand that in real life application, they act like a bungee cord system, right? Where if you think back to school, right, that's your primary education days with, potential energy and kinetic energy, right? Muscles and the connective tissues kind of act in much the same way. When those tissues lengthen, right? So, like for example, I'm, walking, and then my back leg, you can see that the calf is a little bit more lengthened, more stretched, right? So at that point, there's going to be increased tension in those tissues, and which is great because it helps slow down the movement so that this knee doesn't come all the way to the floor, right? So it helps slow down the movement when I'm walking, in this particular leg. And of course, with this being lengthened, more tension, it's going to be stored energy, so that when I need to push off the feet, I can contract the calf and I can step. I can push through those toes. So, when your foot and ankle alignment is off, you're not going to be as efficient at doing that. So that's why another big reason why it's important to address that is, if your body's not as efficient as performing movement, it's going to find ways to compensate so you can do the movement, but those compensations can lead to injury. And those again, the malalignment, the bad alignment is going to make you less efficient with your movement. And if you look at your feet, especially, if you tend to have your feet more outwards, right? When you walk and your knees coming inside of the toes, you may notice that you have like a bunion, at the base of the big toe, right? That big joint there may have calluses, right? To the side, the inside of the big toe. So, and that's going to be because of that position. Your knees moving inside the toes, oftentimes when you walk. And the bunions will form because your body's going to try to strengthen that area, protect it, since you're putting a lot of force, right, on that area. And your body adapts. And so it's going to, the more calcium deposits or just more bone to help protect it. That's what's going to happen there. And same thing with the skin of the calluses, right? It's just trying to find ways to protect that area because that's the way you're using your body. Your body's very smart. It's very, very intelligent and adaptive. So when you see like those bunions and calluses, keep in mind that's because your ankle line you're using your feet. High heel shoes is another thing here we need to be mindful of. We've mentioned this in some of our past videos on YouTube. If you haven't seen those videos, go ahead and check it out. Again, visit our YouTube channel for that. But the high heel shoes, it's not just for women either. Although, especially if you have heels that are 2 inches or higher, you definitely see this. But most sneakers, guys and women, right? Their sneakers tend to be high heel because it lifts the heel higher than the toes, and that's going to, in the long run, going to shorten the calves, right? The muscle length. It's going to shorten it over time. Same thing with the connective, the fascial tissue. It's going to shorten it over time, which is going to pull things out of alignment for the foot and ankle. And that's why flat foot shoes or just walking around barefoot, it's going to be better in the long run because you can more, just the way the body was designed, right? So that we can be flatter on the ground. And of course, if you already are experiencing, foot issues, right, like pain, let's say plantar fasciitis, for example, right there at the bottom of the foot, things like that, then going barefoot may not necessarily be the best for you at this point, or flat foot shoes. So you may need some inserts, right, some orthotics to help reposition your feet so that they're more in a neutral alignment and you're not collapsing inward too much, right? So one thing that can help out to help give you a better sense of a more neutral foot position is this is something called fold steps. And what these will do is instead of allowing you to cave inwards, you're actually going to roll more outwards. Okay, so it's especially if you're used to overpronating, it's going to feel awkward having your feet in a more the outside or supinating position, right? But this is a good way to help kind of realign the foot ankle positioning. Sorry, my chin's touching the microphone. But this is something you can absolutely really use. And there's another way to determine like your foot ankle alignment. One quick way is to light foot to collapse inward, and then go all the way out the other way, right, to the supinate outwards, and then just right in the middle. Okay, you should have most of your pressure kind of more on the outside of the foot, a little bit of the forefoot as well, but it shouldn't be mostly in the arch. It should be more on the outside of the foot for your neutral foot position. And I don't know if I'll be able to demonstrate this here, but there's 2 like fibers of tendons, that you can find right there at the angle of the foot and ankle. And if you place your finger just to the outside of the outside part of that tendon, and then the thumb on the inside of the other tendon, and when you stand, if you roll your foot inward, you can kind of feel where your thumb is, right on the inside. You can feel that more. If you roll outwards, so you feel a little bit more on that. And you're trying to find right in the middle so you feel even pressure against both your fingers. And then that should be your neutral alignment. So keeping your toes pretty much forward. That's going to be something to practice, right? You can even have someone, especially if they are more familiar with this, they can help you out with that. Or you can reach out to us, and, even I can help you out with that as well. But any other questions you have related to that, please reach out to us. You can email us. You can visit us on our website, and certainly we will help you out with that. But what we'll do now is go into our corrective exercises that you can do to help mitigate these issues that you might be experiencing. And of course, we're going to start with massage techniques, right? Self-myofascial release techniques that you can do. And we'll start with the foot, right? I'm going to start with the ground up. And you're going to grab the chair. And it's going to be quite simple. It's going to be massaging the bottom of your foot for the most part, right? And you can use your thumbs if you have your leg crossed over, by the way, right? Just using your thumbs and move fingers up and down. And it doesn't just have to be the fingers. You can also use the butt of your hand to do something very similar. So and you can also use your elbow, right? You want to apply a little bit more pressure by focusing here on the arch, right there in the midfoot. You can even, get the heel as well too. You can go across the foot, right? This is a great way to stimulate those nerve endings in the bottom of your feet. I also like to work on the toes a little bit too, just a little bit of pinching, slash massage for each of the toes, right? So that's something you can do with that. But don't forget about the top of the foot. We always need to focus on the bottom of the foot, also the top of the foot. So you can get nice and light, right? It's more sensitive. So you're going to get in between the metatarsals, the bones that it was attached to. You can do it here, or even with your foot on the floor. But it's good to absolutely get the feet massaged out because it's going to help you relax. Each foot to relax so that you're more likely to get into a more neutral foot position when we need to be. So the other thing you can do is use a sports ball. Easier if you're sitting on the floor, but you can stand up as well. And you can't see me on the screen, so here we go. Just, have the ball, your foot right on top of the ball, right in the midfoot. So I don't know how well you can see that, but right in the midfoot where the arch is. I'm just going to roll up and down. You can even go across, right side to side. And when you find that trigger point, that adhesion, right, you're going to stay on top of that spot and breathe through it, right, until you feel that release take place, and then slowly move off of that spot, moving on to the next. Make sure you get both sides as well. The side that you may be feeling more more tightness or more adhesions, whatnot, that's the side you want to put more emphasis on, right? You want to focus more on. So even if you're doing this for, let's say, a minute, but you realize, one foot's even worse than the other, what you're feeling, then maybe stay there for 2 minutes instead, so like a 2-to-1 ratio, with the amount of time you're spending. Right. Another thing you can do too is if you have one of these canes, you can also use the nub at the very bottom, and you can put that at the bottom of your foot and kind of work your way through that as well. Okay. So again, a few different ways in which you can address the bottom of your foot with massage. So next, let's move on to the calves. And actually, I'm going to stay seated because for the calf, you can, with your hands alone, you just grab right together the meaty part of the calf, and just use your thumbs, use your hands, kind of just work your way through. You can use your fist as well, or you can kind of just, kind of blade your hands up and down the calf. Now, with any of the massaging, to help prevent friction, you may want to use a massage oil or a lotion. It's sort of going to be much easier, right? But you can certainly use your hands to massage the calf. Also, I'll show you with the ball. If you're down on the floor, ideally if you have like a relatively good-sized book, maybe that's an inch or two off the ground, put the ball on top of that. That will allow more pressure to be placed into the calf, but you can use the floor just as easily. And as you're sitting, just slowly rolling up and down until you find those adhesions. Right? You can even go across, right side to side, to find those same spots. Okay. Once you find that adhesion, like I just found right here, breathe through it. I should need to relax my foot. But breathe through it until you feel more release take place. Good. And of course, you can always use the trusty foam roller. And if you have a longer foam roller, you can have both legs on, right, for the calves. Again, keeping it below the knees and above the ankles for this. Make sure that you're getting the center of the calf, get the outside of the calves, as well as the inside of the calves. Another tool, massage stick can also accomplish the same thing. You know, if you're seated on the floor, or even if you're kneeling, right, with one leg forward, or you can also do it this way too. But same concept. All right, we're looking for those adhesions and just work through them. When you find it, hold it onto that spot until you start to feel it release. The massage sticks are great for like sports, races. You know, if you are doing a road race, because you can very easily pack them in a bag and use it just before the activity. So I like that because it's very important. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the anterior tibialis, more known as the shin. Right, this is an area that we tend to forget about or overlook. And what we can do here is use your hands, right? Sliding up and down. So you want to get that massage. And again, it's going to be just to the outside of the tibia, or that bone that took the lower leg. So just to the outside, fleshy part of that front leg. You can also use a cross ball. So if you're down on the floor, hands and knees, with the ball on the floor, place your shin, again, make sure it's the muscle, not the bone, right on top of the ball. And then from here, gently move your hips back until you feel more pressure being applied to that region. If you're not feeling much there, then reposition until you find what we're looking for. And when you feel that pressure, you feel like there's an adhesion there, again, just breathe through it. Allow for that release to take place before moving on to the next location. Again, we're going to get both legs involved for that one. So those are massage techniques that you can apply to yourself, right? Self-massage for the foot, for the calf, as well as the shin, right? The anterior tibialis. So we're going to go through some stretches next. And we'll start with stretches for the bottom of your foot. So if you're seated, this is going to be an easier position to put yourself into for this one. And all you need to do is cross your leg over, and then you're going to grab your toes, right? Just get a nice little pull so that we can get that stretch right there through the bottom of the foot. And another way to do this is if you're standing using whether it be the baseboard or the wall or some sort of vertical surface attached to the floor, you can place your toes right on and then slide your forefoot down towards the floor. Again, another way in which you can get the bottom tissues of the foot stretched out. And just focus on breathing through that stretch, holding it for upwards to 2 minutes. But I would say, especially for practice purposes, at least like 1 to 2 minutes in that range, and then do the same thing for the other foot. Another stretch that we can do is, let's see. Now, actually, we're going to move on to the. Actually, no, there is one more thing you can do. I almost forgot about this. I like to use my fingers to place them in between each toe. This is a great way to separate the toes. Especially, from the footwear that we do, and even some of the activities that we do, the toes tend to be bunched up, right? Tend to be really crunched together. And especially true if you notice that your toes turn outwards, away from the inside of your foot. It's just the way your shoes are designed. So this is a really good exercise for you to incorporate just by placing, again, your fingers are in between each toe, trying to find the best position for you to see. And again, holding it there. It might feel very tight at first, and you may only be able to do so much, and that's fine. But what you'll notice is over time, you're going to start to feel that to release and relax, and it won't be as uncomfortable. So this is going to be great to open up the foot, open up the toes for a better foot ankle alignment in the long run. So that's for the foot. We're going to move on to stretching the calves next. So what we'll do now is we can use the wall. There's a couple different ways to do this, really. So similar to when we're stretching the bottom of the foot, have your toes and forefoot up high and try to keep it there so your heel is on the floor. From here, just go ahead and slowly move your hips forward to keep your spine a little taller until you feel that light stretch take place in the lower legs. So you can switch legs here so you can see a little bit better. There we go. Just like that. So relax your breathing, just like we do with any stretch. And this will get most of the upper part of the calf, the gastrocnemius. So to get the lower part of the calf muscle, what we'll do is just add a bend to that knee and then shift your weight forward. Okay, so this is, you're going to feel a little bit more here with the Achilles tendons. That lower half of the calf. So the other thing, we reposition ourselves so your hands are on the wall or a table. You can use a table for this as well. And those times staggered, have one leg forward, and the other leg is it's far enough back to where I can keep my heel on the floor. I want you to look down at your foot though. Are your toes pointing straight forward or are they angled outwards? Because if they're angled outwards, you're not going to get the stretch we need. So pivot your heel outwards so the toes point straight forward, and it might feel awkward for you because you're not used to having your foot in this position. But that's a good thing because now you know you're close to where you need to be. So look down, make sure your foot, your toes are pointing in the right direction, and then go ahead and just shift your weight forward, keeping your back heel down until you feel that stretch take place in the lower leg. And then to get the lower half of that, because again, you're getting more of the top half stretch, you might feel a little bit lower, but to focus more on the lower half of that, bring your feet a little closer together. So they'll still be staggered, but keep your feet closer together. Keep the back foot and toes pointing forward, and then just going to bend your knee into that stretch. So just by bending that knee bend, you can just completely change what you feel this calf stretch. And again, make sure the knee is moving over the toes in that direction, not inside of your toes. Good. And of course, you do that for both feet. And if you feel one side that is tighter than the other, put more emphasis on the tighter side. A little bit longer time, 2-to-1 time ratio, 2 minutes, something like that. So then let's get to the shin. One of the easiest ways to stretch the shin is if you actually have your toes pointing back behind you, not into the ground, but behind you, and then just gently going to sit on your feet, right, on your heels. And that's certainly a pretty straightforward way of getting stretch for that area, and especially if you tend to get shin splints. I wouldn't do this when you're feeling that shin splint, when you're feeling that pain, but afterwards, right, when it's subsided, I would definitely emphasize this stretch to help get those muscles to lengthen so that they don't get as over stressed when you're doing certain activities, like maybe a lot of inclines, hills, when you're running or walking. All right, good. Let's move on to some stability work. So we got some self-myofascial release, we got some stretching, and now we're going to work on stability, right? Especially if you've hurt your ankle many times over the years, you notice maybe those ligaments are a little loose, right? So your ankle, it's harder to stabilize. So balancing exercise is going to be great to help strengthen those muscles that will support the ankle. And the many different tools that you can use for this. A very simple exercise you can do without any of these tools is to stand on one leg, right? Now, get those toes to spread out, so make sure that they're not punched up. Let me get a little closer here and see if that helps. But get those toes to spread out a little bit more, and then elevate one leg, right? So my knee's not lifted all that high, balancing. You can make it more challenging by elevating the knee a little higher. The ultimate challenge here is closing your eyes to see how long you can maintain that balance. Right? But that's one of the more straightforward ways of working in balance for that lower leg and foot is just standing in the leg. But you can add more to it. Of course, you can use any type of surface that's more unstable. So if you have, let's say, these pads, for example, right? Any type of form pad, they come in different shapes, like squares and so forth. But sometimes when you starting here is going to be the better option for you, right? Because maybe you're going to need to work on stability. And that's what we have these types of tools for. And then you can also work on just one leg, working on that balance. And you can see it's already that much more challenging than a nice solid floor. We also have